I'd like to call to order the Pasco 10 o'clock meeting of July 11th, 2023. At this time, silence all electronic devices and mute your phones. Please rise for the invocation and pledge of allegiance.
O merciful Creator, your hand is open wide to satisfy the needs of every living creature. Make us thankful for your loving providence, and grant that we, remembering the account that we must one day give, may be faithful stewards of your good gifts. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
District 1, Commissioner Oakley.
Here.
District 2, Commissioner Waitman.
Here.
District 3, Commissioner Starkey. Here. District 4, Commissioner Bradford.
Here.
District 5, Chairman Mariano.
Here, sorry. Commissioner Bradford, sorry, I jumped on that. Now's the time for public comment. Citizens are given an opportunity to comment on any current or future agenda item coming before the board and other business under the board's purview. Today's public comment will be handled as follows. First, we will take public comment from those who are here in person. Then we will take public comment for those who have pre-registered for a WebEx link and are currently on queue. We request that when you address the board, comments are not directed personally against a commissioner or team member, but rather directed at the issues. This provides mutual respect between the board members and the public. After stating your name and address for the clerk, a 3-minute timer will be activated. After 2 minutes, a single beep will indicate you have 1 minute left. When your time is up, two beeps will sound, and you should close your comments. WebEx participants will be disconnected automatically when their time is up. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone signed up for public comment?
We do, Chairman. The first one is Guy Abosulman. I hope I got that right. If you want to approach the podium, name and address for the record, please.
My name's Guy Philip Busselman. The address is 4233 Oakfield Avenue, Holiday. The main reason I'm coming, there was a lien on my house or a fine on my house for code violations that were supposed to be done by January 1st. We had them all completed by January 1st. The inspector that did come out said we were fine. And I talked to other people and they said we were fine. Then I went to put my house up for sale and went through escrow, and escrow says that there's fines from the county of almost $41,000. And the code inspector did come back out and said, yes, everything is complete, but they needed proof that we did complete them by January 1st. One was a window violation, one was a room addition violation, and enclosure of a garage to a living space. I have proof that the room addition blocking was done what the code inspector wanted. The garage was a matter of just opening up and sealing some sheetrock in the garage. I did that personally with a friend, and then the windows were done with the permit, and that was cleared. So I'm just asking for a reduction or elimination of the fines.
Okay. Rob Barron? Okay. Rob, if you would talk with the gentleman? Yeah.
If
This
you go
gentleman help
outside here,
you.
we'll have our assistant county administrator in charge of all that, meet with you out here to discuss.
Okay, where should I go out there?
Yeah, with that gentleman right there.
Thank you.
Everybody-
Came a long way.
People with me that were witnesses?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, everybody you
Go
need.
on out there.
Okay, the next individual signed up is John Michael Morin.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm John Michael Morin, the very proud president of the Pasco County Professional Firefighters at 21735 YMCA Camp Road, Land O'Lakes, Florida 34639. Today's a very exciting day for Pasco County Fire Rescue as we turn yet another page and begin a new chapter in our department's storied history. As a longtime union member and a highly respected member of the fire service community, we are proud to welcome Chief Tony Perez to Pasco County and look forward to working together to build upon our successes of the last decade and to tackling new challenges with an open mind and a collaborative approach. As you all deliberate the business of the day, I ask that you reflect on how significantly our county has changed over the last several years and contemplate the financial resources necessary to keep up with the unprecedented growth in residential and commercial development, population, and the subsequent strain on the emergency services response system. Our success, including that of the new fire chief, is predicated on your commitment to public safety and to providing adequate, fiscally responsible, and sustainable funding. My members are relentless in their pursuit of innovation and service excellence, but we cannot become Florida's premier fire rescue agency without your continued support. Now is the time to set the stage for a clear path forward by promoting public safety, providing us with the necessary resources, and allowing us to serve our community to create a better future that we proclaim to be our mission. We look forward to continuing to engage with the board in ways that are mutually beneficial, productive, and serve in the best interest of the public. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next one signed up is Dylan Rich.
I have a PowerPoint I want to present.
Move to receive and file.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I sent it to Gina Jeffers. Hello, my name is Dylan Rich. I live at 290 85 Fire Street in Brooksville. Reason I'm here today is to speak on the Anklet Restoration Project, or Site 8PA00010. Last time I was here, I spoke on a few simple reasons why I simply believe Anklet River Park should be preserved and left the way it is. Today I'm here to speak on what mostly concerns me of all, the disturbance and desecration of sacred native burials and sites. Today I have brought with me some pictures of me that I wanted to share with everyone. First thing I wanted to share that I found on the University of Florida digital collection, the Florida Anthropologist issue report dated back to 1981. So for those who didn't know, Temple Mounds surrounded the Bay Area. There was 15, including one at Anklet, discovered in 1880, and then later was destroyed. Later on in 1978, in the fourth paragraph on this page, Ripley Bolin describes a settlement pattern for ceremonial mounds of the Safety Harbor period, which included a midden paralleling the shore, a rectangular temple mound with a ramp in the middle of one of its longer sides leading toward the main part of the midden. A burial mound off to one side. With this information, I think it's safe to say there's a good possibility there very much so is native burials at Anklet Park. There are pictures of a Phase 3 archaeological survey coming to an end in North Carolina, original earthwork once being over 40 feet tall at its highest point, not anymore. All bodies and artifacts bagged up and boxed up to sent to a university to sit on a shelf in a storage room. This next picture I have is of a Cherokee boy in a bag. How would you feel to see if a member of your family treated this way? How terrible is $10,000 a month for 10 years, the price that Pasco County Commission sets on sacred native sites and burials?
Yep, you have another minute.
I'm done.
Did we all receive a copy of your?
Yeah, I sent it to her.
Okay, so we'll take a look.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I say something else real quick?
Go ahead.
Yeah?
Yeah.
The Santa Culture Report, on the map, it shows all the test areas that they had tested for artifacts. The areas that were tested, I believe, are the same areas of this temple mound. And that's all the concrete areas, the bathroom, the pavilion area, all that area. And on their map on the Stantec report, they didn't test any of those areas. So I think that those areas need to be tested.
Okay, and that's the information you sent us?
What's that?
That's in the information you sent us?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next individual signed up is Charles Carey.
Hello, I'm Charles Carey. My address is 16033 Wards Court, Dade City, Florida. Essentially a lifelong resident of Pasco County. Not that that may make any difference. This is ongoing for 2 years now. I'm trying to get some asphalt onto a section of Lake Ella Road where there's a culvert under there has slightly collapsed. Now there's a dip, and I am repeatedly trying to ask them at least to put some asphalt to cover up that dip, to no avail. I've contacted Public Works several times, county commissioners, and most cases they do not get back to me. I've emailed the assistant Public Works director, said they're going to look into this over a month or two ago, and I don't hear anything back. Please, I just want some asphalt on this section of Lake Ella Road. There's 3/10 of a mile north of the intersection of Lake Ella Road and St. Joe Road. There's not much right-of-way there because the stone wall, and that's another issue. They need to widen the right-of-way, but that's another issue. But just get some asphalt there because some cars are going around and avoiding it. Unfortunately, the problem with that is a curve there you can't see oncoming traffic. Thank you.
Okay. If you would, Branford?
Yeah.
Sir, the gentleman in the back, Branford, is going to get up, he'll meet with you and talk about that issue. I see Jason here as well, good. All right, Jason, good. Those gentlemen there will take it and take a look at it for you, sir. Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, so the next individual was signed up for WebEx, but I believe showed up in person, Doris Campbell. No, Doris Carroll, apologize. Ms. Carroll.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Doris Carroll. I live at 5244 Hawk Drive in Holiday. I'm here today to speak to the county commissioners and thank you for allowing public comment in opposition of the Anclote River project development. I am a registered nurse of 40 years, proud union member, past president of the Illinois Nurses Association, the Nurses Union. I've just arrived here for the last 2 years, although my mother has lived here for almost 30 years. She and I took my family to Anclote River Beach every year. And so I'm here today as a member of the Democratic Environmental Caucus, but I'm also here on behalf of 1,800 people who have signed this petition and who oppose this development. ARP site APA 0010 is a public beach and park. It needs maintenance and beautification, not a bar, a restaurant, live entertainment, and a water sports complex. The park is a quiet place for locals and out-of-town guests to relax and enjoy nature. Obviously, we have dolphins and manatees in the area and eagle's nest. The congestion from a private endeavor utilizing Pasco County tax dollars will have a significant impact on the environment, a potential loss of a prehistoric site that is eligible for placement on the National Registry of Historic Places. I will give you today a petition signed by over 1,800 nonpartisan concerned citizens to stop this project. As my colleague Dylan Rich mentioned, it includes an Indian mound, which is a prehistoric site cited by the CRAS by Stantec, with possible human remains not yet discovered. The county will violate its mission, the park's mission, if this private business venture moves forward, quote, to enhance the quality of life for Pasco County citizens by providing a balance of athletic, recreational, cultural, and educational opportunities, and by protecting the county's natural resources, including land, air, water, and wildlife. The use of taxpayer dollars to fund a private entity endeavor is quite astonishing. This is a family public park with no alcohol allowed. And now I guess you'll be rezoning to allow alcohol in. It's also in a low coastal flood zone, which we were lucky last year when Hurricane Ian missed us. So the CRAS dated 4/10/23 recommended to avoid this park with this development and leave Anclote River Park alone. A phase 3 data recovery mitigation plan will be quite expensive, using obligation funds, I understand, General, and who will pay for those general obligation funds? Our taxpayers here in Pasco County. Thank you very much, appreciate your time, and who can
Move to
I-
receive and file.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Do you want to pass those to the clerk?
There is no one else signed up for public comment.
No one on WebEx either?
No one else on
All right,
WebEx.
we will close public comment.
Do you need to call for the audience, maybe?
Anyone from the audience would like to address the board? Okay, we'll close public comment. Resolutions, we doing
No, it's on consent.
that? No consent, okay. The next order of business is the consent agenda. I'm going to make a note. I do have one item I need to ask someone to make a motion on. N112, it's a renewal of public official bond. I need someone to make a motion. Actually,
It's withdrawal.
so it's just withdrawn?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll make a note. N112 is withdrawn. I don't have any other pulls in the consent agenda. Does anyone else have any pulls in the consent agenda? No pulls, it's good.
Move approval on the rest of the consent agenda items.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote?
All right, District 1, Commissioner Oakley.
Aye.
District 2, Commissioner Waitman.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Starkey.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Bradford. Commissioner Bradford, you are muted.
We saw your verbs.
Just give a thumb.
We saw your motion
Thumbs
there.
up.
We can live through.
We did.
He is still muted.
Commissioner Bradford, there we go, we got you now, okay.
There you go. Thank you. And then District 5, Chairman Mariano.
Aye. Aye. Okay. And now we'll go to the regular agenda, starting with R43. Mr. Tax Collector.
Good morning. I was never referred to before by a letter and a number.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you for allowing me to come and do this briefly. One of the things that the County Commission can do, and it's been done in many counties, to tell the tax collector not to send a tax notice out to anyone having a tax bill of less than $30. I'd ask you to adopt a resolution that the tax collector here in Pasco does not need to send a tax notice out to anyone with less than $10. The cost of what it's costing us now is approximately $14,000 to send these tax notices out. Most of them are mineral rights notices. And if you know anything about mineral rights, they're the most ridiculous things that was ever created by the state of Florida. And they don't get paid, first of all. Then we have to send reminder notices. Then we have to advertise them. And the only one that can buy the certificate, if they wanted to, is the people that own the property on top of those mineral rights. I'm asking you to adopt a resolution, if you would please consider that. We'd like to have it done to where we do not send the tax notices out in 2024. But if you can adopt that resolution before the tax notices go out this year, I can put a notice in those tax notices letting them know, the people know that have a tax notice of less than $10, that this is the last tax notice they will be getting.
I would approve that.
I'll second that.
Mr. Chairman, the resolution hasn't been drafted yet, so.
Okay.
Oh, I have one here. No, I'm just kidding.
It drives me nuts when I get a bill for $1 from someone. you know.
Yes.
If that's the board's inclination, we can put that back on the August 8th agenda.
Oh, that would be
and-
great.
On consent and have you adopt the formal resolution at that point.
I think it's unanimous on the board to move forward with it, so happy to
Thank
do
you
it.
so very
Thank you for bringing it
much.
forward.
God bless you. And if I may, I want to thank County Administrator, his staff, and wonderful people. Dealing with all of you has been great. Our constitutional officers, I've never seen a united county as anywhere else in the state of Florida. I hear from other tax collectors in the state about how they're having difficult with their county commissioner, or their county administrator, or their other constitutions. It doesn't happen here.
Nope.
And that's what makes me so proud of living here. So God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Okay, item number R44, confirmation of Emergency Service Director, Captain Seltzer. Mr.
Good morning,
Breitenbach.
Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Eric Breitenbach, Internal Services Assistant County Administrator. I'm here today to introduce Captain Eric Seltzer and request your confirmation of him as the Emergency Services Director. Captain Seltzer began his law enforcement career in 1995 and has a wide breadth of experience serving in various positions of increasing complexity and responsibility, including things such as the detective in the Crimes Against Children Unit, the District 3 Platoon Commander, and most recently as leading the Community Engagement Bureau. Captain Seltzer is a prior recipient of the Detective of the Year Award, and I'm confident that he will do wonderful things leading our 911 center, and so I respectfully request your confirmation of him to lead the department.
Very good.
So, Captain Seltzer, say anything to the board?
Captain?
No, I just like to thank you guys for considering me. It's an honor. I look forward to working, if confirmed, with the 911 center. It's an important endeavor. You know, it's a lifeline for the community and our public servants. So it's important that we get this right.
I appreciate you stepping up to fill the role. Thank you. We have a motion.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Yes, I don't see Commissioner Bradford. But District 1, Commissioner Oakley.
Aye.
District 2, Commissioner Waitman.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Starkey.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Bradford.
Oh.
District, oh, there he is. Okay,
Yeah.
very good. And then District 5, Chairman Mariano.
Aye. Congratulations. Thank you very much. And now, confirmation of Fire Chief, R45, Anthony Perez.
Thank you, Board. I stand here for your consideration of Chief Perez as our next fire chief. But first, I want to thank Chief Casson for his dedicated service to Pasco County, and I would like him to stand to be recognized. Second, I'd like to thank the dozens of staff and HR individuals who helped go through an extensive process in our search for our next fire chief. And third, I would like to thank all the high-speed fire rescue service personnel who deliver life-saving service every day in Pasco County to our residents. Will any of our fire rescue service personnel who are here stand and be recognized? So I stand here to share 6 attributes that make Tony Perez the perfect selection at this time to be our next Pasco County Fire Chief. 1, his commitment to family and community. Chief Perez is not just a dedicated fire service personnel, but also a committed family man and active community member. Residing in Pasco County with his wife and children, Chief Perez's strong family values, active involvement in the community underscore his commitment to serving and protecting the people and the place he calls home. Experience and leadership. Chief Tony Perez brings a wealth of experience to Pasco County Fire Rescue. Having served in various roles in the fire service for over 26 years, his journey to firefighter to chief of operations and personnel chief at Tampa Fire Rescue has equipped him with a deep understanding of fire service operations and administration. His leadership style emphasizes transparency and trust building, and he has been instrumental in driving organizational change and empowering fire service personnel. Commitment to continuous learning. Chief Perez's commitment to maintaining a diverse skill set of fire service designations and certificates demonstrates his dedication to continuous learning. His commitment keeps him at the forefront of fire service and sets a strong example for future officers reinforcing the importance of ongoing professional development. Community engagement. 4, as a resident of Pasco County, Chief Perez and his wife Jenny and their family are actively involved in this community. Their local connection will undoubtedly enhance his ability to understand and respond to the unique needs of our community, fostering a strong relationship between the fire service and the residents it serves. A unique background. Chief Perez's unique background, which includes a career in professional baseball before transitioning to fire service, speaks to his adaptability and determination. These qualities, coupled with his extensive experience in fire service, make him an excellent fit for the role of Fire Chief of Pasco County. And maybe this can help our softball team that's already top tier go a little bit further.
I just want to know if we can play golf.
6th and last, his vision for Pasco County Fire. Chief Perez's vision for Pasco County Fire Rescue is building a legacy by laying a solid foundation and bridging gaps that currently exist. His focus on the betterment of the community and its residents align perfectly with our mission, and we look forward to seeing the positive impact of his leadership. He will lead from the ground up, and I cannot be more proud to bring this servant leader forward for your confirmation.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you.
They go first, and then you talk.
Okay, they go first? Okay, all right, no problem. No problem.
If you want to speak, go ahead.
No, I just want to...
We're on the fence right now, so let's go.
Okay, no problem. I'm trying to get good. No problem. I'll play golf. I just want to thank each and every one of you for giving me this opportunity. It's an honor and a blessing to be able to stand here before each and every one of you. Given the opportunity, I look forward to working with each and every one of you, with Local 4420, with the staff that's behind me, moving this department forward and going in the direction it needs to go, to great things. Not good, but great, working together with each and every one of you. I do want to thank my family, Jenny, my sister that are in attendance, all my friends and family from Tampa Fire Rescue, as well as my neighbors that live on our block. They're here in support, and we are in unity and excited to see what moves forward here in Pasco County Fire Rescue. And I just want to thank each and every one of you. Thank you.
And Mr. Perez?
Yes.
I want to say, you came from a group of strong candidates who are out there. For these guys, unanimously get behind you as well as they did. From what I hear out in the group, everybody's thrilled that you're the pick. I know you're going to do a great job. I want to say from 19 years ago when I first started, we started working on trying to improve the fire with EMS people weren't only getting a little bit of pay, we try to get them more pay. We work on insurance stuff, we're working on the buildings to make it safe for our firefighters every step of the way. We're gonna work on building conditions. COVID slowed us down a little bit, but I will tell you, this board here and my previous boards as well, we are 100% behind the leadership of the fire department as well as the fire department to make it the best it can possibly be, to be the best in the nation. So I love your enthusiasm, looking forward to working with you.
Amen, amen, I appreciate that, and thank you, Commissioner. Also want to thank Commissioner, County Administrator Carbala and Assistant County Administrator J.J. Murphy for that process, and I truly look forward to enjoying the journey together.
Sir, we had his hand up before.
All right, Commissioner
I'll go
Wilson.
after him.
Along with approving his confirmation, I'll make that a motion, and then along with that, I welcome you to Pasco County, and I know that you're going to help us get to be that premier county. You've got a great team to work with, and I know with your leadership and with all the experience we have in Pasco County, we have great firefighters here, and they'll do a great job. I know that. So welcome aboard.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you. And one last thing, I'm coming back home for where it all started.
Oh, we know that.
That's right.
And which is a blessing. Not many individuals have that opportunity. So I'm excited. My family's excited. My friends are excited to come back and finish right where I started in the fire service, Pasco County.
Yeah, I wanted,
Commissioner Starkey.
well, I wanted to make sure that everybody knew that this is where he started in the fire department.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
And he's already a Pasco resident, and
Yes.
so, and as most people know, Jenny worked here and helped us as we work to improve our county and build our county. So it's a very committed family to Pasco County, and
Amen.
I'm very excited for what the future holds, and we welcome you here, and I second the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Whitman?
Thank you. Chief Casson, Chief Perez, thank you. I know, being a freshman board member, worked with you, Chief Casson, for a very short period of time, but enjoyed it, and congratulations on your retirement. And Chief Perez, we're working on Old Pasco Road for you. So.
Amen. Amen. All right. All right.
So, and to the Perez family, congratulations to you all. You'll be in my prayers and your department, our prayers for much success, and JJ, and excited to work through this next chapter together. So, congratulations.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Commissioner.
All right, and Commissioner Bradford?
I want to congratulate you. You did an outstanding job. You can tell who's a first responder. Come from a first responder background, and it does my heart good that you're able to leave with such a high note. And Tony, what can I say? I'm going to hang over for the ride and see what you got. I got a feeling you got a lot to give, and we want to be as supportive as we can. And welcome to the team.
Thank you, Commissioner.
And I just want to add one more thing. As you know, it's really neat that we have people that have been in the county, left the county, and come back to the county. And that happened with the library chief that we just hired as well.
Yeah.
I'm hopeful as we go forward, and the discussion coming right up after this one here is about how we could work on the fire MSDU to raise the pay of our firefighters to help make them very competitive to Hillsborough and et cetera, but also maybe even bring some of the guys back. And I think with your leadership, we're gonna make that happen.
Amen.
So.
We're going to work hard.
All right, I'll call the roll.
Okay. District 1, Commissioner Oakley.
Aye.
District 2, Commissioner Waitman.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Starkey.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Bradford.
Aye.
District 5, Chairman Mariano.
Aye. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'll say one thing. Chief Perez knows how to pack a stadium, doesn't he? Next item, we'll go to R46. Tentative millage rates for truth and millage trim notices.
Good morning. Bob Corey, Pasco County Budget Director. This morning I'd like to give you a brief summary of the fiscal year 24 budget, as well as ask you to adopt the millage rates that will be included in the truth and millage mailing that will go out in August. So as we began developing the fiscal year 24 budget, there were two factors that really stood out in our minds as having the potential to increase expenditures. And the first one, of course, was this stubborn high interest rate. Right now it's up around 6%. The second one is the rapid growth in our population, which is increasing the demand for services throughout the county, throughout all of our departments. And so we thought if we developed a conservative budget, that would serve our residents well. And by conservative, we mean what we want to go into this budget with limiting the number of new spending, new ongoing spending, and instead rely on spending for one-time capital type things. Just in case things get worse, we can always pull back on those capital expenditures. And so the assumptions we went into this budget season are no changes with the operating millage of 7.6076. Right now, there's no change in the operating, or the millage for the fire MSTU, 1.8036. However, we are recommending an increase in that millage from 1.8036 to 2.3 mils. And we'll talk about that in depth later about the reasons we believe that's necessary. There will be no change in the stormwater assessment. Water and wastewater rates will be as they were represented in the 4-year rate resolution. And we are in year 4 of 7 for the 7-on-7 solid waste plan. So if we look at the taxable assessed values that we received, the final taxable assessed values we received on July 1st, you can see in that July 1st column there that taxable assessed values increased by 16.5%. So if we look at 16.5%, that yields an increase in property tax revenues of almost $49 million. If we take 40% of that for the sheriff, that yields a $19.5 million increase for the sheriff's budget. We look at the CRAs and TIFs, we remove those, and then the money that's available to the board and the constitutionals for new initiatives is about $26 million. So if we look at that same calculation for the fire MSTU, we have fire MSTU increased by 16.7%. You'll notice there's a difference between the fire and the general MSTU because the fire MSTU does not include the entire county. And if we look at a 16.7% increase for the fire MSTU, that yields an additional $11.3 million. So we noticed on the previous slide, we have $26 million available for the board to spend on new initiatives. If we look at the bottom line here, 25.4 million of that has already been spoken for amongst these general fund additions. You can see the list here. I'm not going to go through all of these items here. I want to touch on the wage increase for all employees. We've built into the budget a 5% wage increase for all employees. For the IAFF union wage increase, we've increased this represents an increase of their wage to 95% of the Hillsborough wage rate. If you have any questions as I'm going through here, please stop me. So we have the constitutional officer budget recommendation. So the clerk and comptroller's budget, that is an increase of $1.5 million, and that represents normal increases to the clerk's budget, things like software increases, retirement, wages, healthcare, that kind of thing. It also includes the increase for year 3 of the CGIS contribution that the board has decided to give. The CGIS is the Criminal Justice Information System. It does not include the $7 million that the clerk has asked for the operation of the courthouse annex. You notice the sheriff's budget increase of 15%.
Hey, Bob, if I could stop you? That was
Yes,
kind of an important item there. So currently, we have a lawsuit going on, correct, still?
Yes.
That appeal's going on? And the financial impact would be how much money on that?
$7.4 million.
$7.4 million, which would negatively impact the slide you saw previously. If
So
that were
whatever
to
we
come to
approve today,
fruition.
if we happen to lose that appeal, we won the first one, Neighbors and Giblin, I think, did a great job for us, we would then have to restructure this whole budget.
Correct.
Taking all that money out, because now we're gonna go pay the state, which no other state's gonna go do.
We would have to find a way
No
to
other
deal with
county's
that
gonna
new
do it.
recurring expense. Yes, sir.
All right, so we're gonna just keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. So the sheriff's budget increased 15%, as we already mentioned, that's 40% of the new revenues. Supervisor elections budget increased by about $1.5 million, and you'll notice the supervisor elections budget increases on those years when we have elections and decreases in the following year when there are no elections. There is a presidential preference primary next year, and so most of this $1.5 million goes to funding the salaries for those who staff the poll stations. Property appraiser increase of almost 12%. This is for some new software he's requesting, as well as just general increases to salaries, retirement, and health care. So we'll turn to the fire MSTU fund now. So we currently have a millage of 1.8036. We don't think that that millage is adequate moving forward to fund the initiatives and to keep the fund structurally balanced. You'll notice that top bar graph there. That line shows the 2-month target. This is the emergency reserve. This is 16.7% of the expenditures that we like to keep in the bank in case there is some sort of emergency that we need to draw down those funds. You'll notice in 23, we were at the 16.7%. Beginning in 24, we're projecting we'll be below that number. And in 25, we'll be $3 million shy of that. And moving forward, it gets even worse. So if we look at that bottom graph there, the cash in, cash out, you'll notice in 24, the cash out will be exceeding the cash in. So that's a structural imbalance in that fund. It's something we'd like to correct. And so what we're recommending here is a millage rate of 2.3. That would require 5 votes for approval in September. We're not asking you just to approve that millage here today. And so as you can see, the reserves is that black line on that top bar graph. And as you can see, in the early years, we'll be stoking away some monies that in the outer years that we can then use those monies as we're moving through. That gets us through 28, and that gives us time to get our spending in order. Chief Perez, who's here, is going to come in, and we have great plans for him. So he's going to get things all squared away. And so you'll see then cash in, cash out, again, 26, 27 time frame, that begins to flip, but it gives us time to work on this and get this in line the way we want to go. So we're talking about 2.3 mils. What does that do for us? It gives us the union wage increases that we talked about, not only this year, but in future years. It gives us the step plan increases that the fire department as well as our union partners have asked for. It also helps us with our capacity demands. This will allow us to not only build 5 new stations, but to be able to afford the staffing for those 5 new stations. So the capital cost for that will not be in the MSTU. However, we do have capital funds set aside that will allow us to build the stations. Increasing the MSTU millage allows us to staff those stations. It's also important to realize that part of the staffing of those stations impacts the general fund. And so we've done a similar 10-year forecast for the general fund. Opening those 5 fire stations on the timeline that the fire department has laid out for us also allows us to be able to afford staffing of those fire stations from the general fund. This does, however, require getting our operating growth, the growth in our operating expenses under control, so that in the future years we can fund all those things that are in that pathway to premier pamphlet that you've all seen. So moving on, the annual contributions to the outside funding. Yes, sir.
Can I just stop you for a second?
Sure.
Back on that slide, and just one of the things I think when you met with all the commissioners, you actually brought up a point that I thought was really hard to believe that would actually happen, but there was an anomaly that happened a couple of years ago with our call rates went up like 14% in 1 year. And it stayed the same with the same increases, so it was like kind of like the graph went along, went up, and still rising up. So it's part of what you're looking at trying to compensate here to make that adjustment in.
Absolutely. We believe with the creation or the opening of these new fire stations will help us address the response times that are continuing to increase, and we need more boots on the ground.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. So if we look again, turn to the general fund, this is the outside funding. Some of these are required by the state, and others the board has decided they would like to fund these things. You've seen this chart before. The difference is this bottom line of United Way. So since past 10 years, the county has contributed $250,000 per year to United Way. And this year we are recommending an increase to that contribution of $85,000. So of that, $20,000 would be for emergency sheltering. And by that we mean when we get a cold snap, folks who are without a home, who are living in the street, currently we take them and we put them up in hotel rooms, which as you can imagine is very inexpensive. It's a very expensive proposition. United Way has come to us with a proposal that would allow us to put folks in churches and that kind of thing and bring our costs down. United Way would handle all of this, and so would get us out of that. We would simply transfer the funds to United Way. The second piece of that is 10 years ago, their purchasing power of that $250,000 was much larger than the purchasing power that it is today, simply due to inflation. We calculated the impact of inflation to $250,000 over 10 years. That simply comes out to $65,000. That just allows them the same purchasing power that they had in 2013, they'll now have in 2023. So that's the $85,000 that we're recommending moving forward. So in addition to the operating budget, we have a number of items here in the capital budget. Of course, we have the $4.7 million. This is the money we set aside for ongoing maintenance of all of our buildings, repairing air conditioners, roofs, all that kind of good stuff. We have IT hardware and software to make sure that we are on the bleeding edge of technology as far as cybersecurity and keeping our network safe and secure. We give $300,000 a year to the parks that allows them to renovate 6 to 8 fields each year. And so by the end of the 10-year period, we will have renovated all of our sports fields in the county. Pine Hill Park improvements, you'll realize this year we set aside $500,000. This year we took over that park. We set aside $500,000 for improvements to that park. And the $1.4 million there would finish up all of the improvements that are envisioned for that park. The next 4 projects here are ARPA funded, the detention center expansion, Magnolia Valley Park, dredging, and the Seven Oaks Library. You'll notice this last item here, Premier Community Health Center. They have asked us for a contribution of $250,000. This is a one-time contribution to their Zephyr Hills Health Center, and that would be to start up their programs in pediatrics, OBGYN, and that kind of thing. And so we're recommending that $250,000, but ultimately that's for you all to agree with or tell us how to proceed with this.
Well, if I could, while you're on the slide, I just want to talk about the Magnolia Bay Park a bit. There is a group coming forward that wants to do something where they may do a fish farm in there. They want to do some hydroponics in there, and it may be something they do a lot of the funding for it. I know we talked about doing even some parks out there as well, so at some point, Mike, if you could, let's bring that topic in. I know we got a meeting coming up this Friday with this group that did an unsolicited proposal. Now it's a letter of interest, so we're going to go down that road, but I just want the board to be aware that that could change to what we've talked about, which has been kind of languishing for a few years. Great news is the people on flooding, that was number one, but I think something really nice could happen there.
Excellent. Thank you.
You.
So tourism development tax. So the Wiregrass Ranch Sports Complex, we have an agreement, the county has an agreement with the Porter family to build 5 multi-use sports fields out there. We set aside $5 million in this year's budget to be able to build those fields. As you can see, the bid came in $10 million higher, so we're asking that we pursue a loan, $10 million, to be able to finish those fields and get on track with the agreement that we have. And this will be paid back from the tourism development tax, so it wouldn't necessarily cost the Pasco County taxpayers any money, because this is coming from the hotel tax being paid by folks who live outside the county. And then the RAD Sport settlement you can see there, and then there are a number of other initiatives that Adam has asked for with the tourism development tax. If we look at the building inspections and permitting fund, the important piece of this slide is if you look at the lower left bar chart there, that yellow line represents the minimum, or I'm sorry, the maximum allowable that fund is allowed to have in their reserves. And so 2 years ago, the state said building funds can no longer keep in their reserves any more than the average of 4 years of expenditures. So that yellow line represents that 4 years, average 4 years of expenditures. And so we're undergoing now a fee study to determine if our fees are too high, because by 26 we're going to have exceeded that, and we'll have to start rebating money to the users of this fund. And so we want to get those expenditures and those revenues under control before 26.
If I could, on that topic, you know, we have 16.7% reserves we put in for the county budget, and for years we didn't have it. We built it up to it, and now we're in a very good financial position. But when you say 4 years of reserves is extraordinary. I mean, I think we should be shooting for a number to be like close to, like 2 years would be plenty.
Absolutely.
And get that number down. So that should be a reduction for our investors that are coming in here, that are investing in our properties, in our development, and cut the cost down for our consumers.
Thank you. Public Works and Stormwater, you notice these are some initiatives they've got here. So we've set aside $2.5 million for landscaping along US 19, Little Road, and other arterial and collector roads. We are asking for a resilience and vulnerability assessment specialist, so we can look at our assets in Public Works and make sure that they're not vulnerable to flooding, hurricanes, and that kind of thing. Here's a Public Works road capital proposed for 24, $2.3 million for Trilby Road, Metmore Road, or Metmore Boulevard, as well as some rejuvenation of other major roads. And then for the MSTU, that has been put on hold for now as we work with the tax collector and a property appraiser to figure out exactly how that would work. But these are current PBAS projects that we're going to move forward with in 24. Finally, with utilities, we're going to be going on, right, as our community grows, the system needs to grow. So we're going to continue with those system growth, investing in that, and investing heavily in renewal and replacement, so that we don't get into the spot where things are worn out. We don't have the money to fix them. We want to be able to fix them right away before they're worn out. So we have the septic to sewer investments. We'll be moving forward with those. We're looking for grants to enable homeowners to be able to afford that switch from septic to sewer, and then you see some other initiatives that they're looking for here. So next steps, today we would ask that you set the trim, and the truth in millage is the process in which the board, the county commission, communicates to the residents the millage rates they're thinking about setting in September. And so in August, the property appraiser will mail a truth in millage form to all property owners in the county stating what those millage rates are and the estimated cost for their tax bill. And so today we ask that you adopt the trim for the general operating millage, the fire MSTU, as well as the general obligation bond millages. Also, we would ask that you set the first public hearing for September 5th at 5:15 in Dade City. And so when we talk about the millages that we're asking, these are the millages. You'll notice that the rolled back rate, that is the rate that would generate next year the same amount of money that's generated this year. We are not recommending the rolled back rate. The proposed millage you can see there is in that central column, and then the difference from the rolled back rate. So the state requires us to calculate the rolled back rate as well as the difference from the proposed from the rolled back rate. You'll notice the general obligation bond millages don't have a rolled back rate because those are set simply to generate the amount of money that's needed to pay back the bondholders. And so with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have, and I ask that you would set the millage. Yes, sir.
Commissioner Waitman.
Thank you. It's been a fun rodeo so far, my first budget meeting, so I appreciate all the questions. You know, I talked to Chief Perez briefly about this morning, so since there's a whole bunch of fire folks in the room, don't want them to take what I'm about to say the wrong way. So back in May 16th, when we had our meeting, there was a recommendation that there would be no change to the fire MSTU. And then we get a notice last night that we want to jump up, essentially over 27%. And in the backup material online for this, it doesn't show any proposed change in the millage, so the public doesn't see this increase. We're looking at an increase annually for a tax increase on our residents of over $21 million, right? And so I have concerns with how this process was handled. We go from no movement on the MSTU in May to a pretty significant bump in what you're asking for today, right? And I've been very clear in my position on our taxes. I will be supportive of the 5% wage increase for staff and some level of an increase on fire MSTU. But I'm not comfortable with budgeting for the 5 years until Chief gets his legs underneath him. I think we should look at maybe 24 months, look at 2 budget cycles instead of setting for 5 to see where we're at, how he's doing operationally, and take a very measured approach to this. We're all feeling the impacts of inflation. Our residents are feeling it, our seniors are feeling it. So I just want to be cautious and truly understand the dollar value and what this money is going to be spent on before moving forward. I know today's a bit of a formality, but it's going to get more serious as we come to when September is the final vote. So, I'd really like the team to really scrub their numbers and their budgets to ensure the need is correct. And so those are just my comments. Now, I would be the same way whether it's for a different utility or any other department in this county. But we do recognize the need. But to go from no increase to this increase, I really would like some reassurances that we're moving in the right direction with the money here.
Thank you. I got a couple of comments. Is Eric Breitenbach right around? There he is, okay. Eric, back in like 2018, 2016, what would it cost us to build a fire station?
Roughly $2.5 million, sir.
And what's the current bids right now we have out there?
I think the last one came in
Think about that number. So when we set up our MSTU from years ago, we made a pretty good jump. We made a commitment to go invest in fire stations, equipment, personnel, et cetera, all the way through. When we did that, we based it upon those numbers. As you saw in the past few years, the chart shows we've been losing money on our reserves coming in with that whole thing because these costs have gone up so high. We still built the fire stations. We still had paid for the fire stations. We still had paid for the employees coming in, and it's driven us to where we get to this point. So inflation is a very bad thing, but we got to react to it. And I will say our firefighters have done a phenomenal job. They've represented us well. The satisfaction ratings they have are phenomenal. I think the board has showed a commitment to not only helping them as far as getting their raises, which is one of the big goals of this MSPU increase, to get them to 95%, not even 100%, but 95%. And we're still not even getting to the Kelly days yet, which we want to get to, but dramatically, it's hard to get to that number right now. And I know Mike and Bob, you guys work real closely. I'm sure you talked to John Michael last night because we were talking about it before, about they got to look at these numbers to try to make it all work, to make it sustainable for many years to come. And I will tell you, as we've seen, the fire EMS group that we have has such a passion for what they do, and the passion for protect each one of us as well as themselves is phenomenal. So as far as like to try to keep the mill, you know, I can appreciate the fiscal conservativeness of it, but we got to get to practicality. Our people have voted to say they want to see the fires EMS to have the resources they need. They approved bonds for it. And unfortunately, the bonds that went through, the bids come in higher than what bonds approved. Had we done it a couple years later, we'd have had a higher bond, we'd probably be in better shape. But we've got to react to what's out there in the financial markets, to the pricing that's out there to make these things happen. I mean, you think this budget year was interesting? You should have seen last year. And I think we were part of it as you're campaigning. We're watching all these guys coming in, bleeding their hearts out, saying, we need your support, we need your support. And we're looking to do the best we can every step of the way. Okay? I only hadn't seen that in like 9 years. So there's definitely a hot button that's out there. They're looking at their workload that's out there, and that needs to go down. We've got to find a way to do it. And hopefully, Chief Perez, your enthusiasm, you're seeing a commitment to us to get at least the raises up here right now and trying to go work further to make us as premier, because they do a phenomenal job here, the whole team. And I think it's just something we need to really work hard at. And I think the number they've got, they wanted like 8.2 and we're at like 4.9. So that's a compromise. But I think, and I trust Mike, you are phenomenal with the numbers and looking at every detail going through, trying to make sure we can make it so the budget works. So I'm going to support what you've put on plate here, and I hope the rank and file is happy with it as well. Mr. Oakley.
I'd just like to add to what you're saying. I do support what we're doing for the firefighters, and when you're talking about doing 5 stations and they're $7.5 million each, that's, I mean, well over around $40 million to take care of our fire stations and cut those times down where we can service our citizens the right way. So a lot of these fire stations you're seeing now, where they used to take 20, 30 minutes, when you put that station in between them and it cuts it down to 5 or less minutes to even get to some of those homes, you're doing the right job for your citizens. And you got to think about your citizens at the same time. The citizens are very appreciative of what we do with our firefighters. They appreciate them very much. They, even to the point that when we had the bond issues here a while back, that the citizens are the ones that voted in these new fire stations and all the work to go into that. They voted in that bond issue, costing themselves money and realizing that they needed it and the fire stations needed that extra boost to get to where we want to go. So I'd like to give them even more, but I'm good with that number as long as we can work with the fire department and get to the point to where we're all on the same page and we get that number as close as we can to what they need. So money's limited, but I think this time we're kind of very close to what it should be. So, thank you.
Go ahead.
Commissioner Waitman.
Thank you. Sorry. To be clear, in your proposal, you're asking us to set this mill for 5 years, right? This is a 5-year budgetary plan. That means we don't address this again till 5 years down the road.
Well, no, this mill would be in place until you change it, so there's no time limit on this. Correct.
But in the planning,
Yeah.
The plan that went into it is based on a 5-year plan and projection, yes.
Yes.
That is correct.
so we know, I mean, it's probably unlikely that we'll ever see rollback, but to plan 5 years, I appreciate that and understand you guys look at 5 and 10-year increments. But as hopefully new efficiencies come on board and we start understanding spending, that we kind of set a 24-month, 2-year benchmark to take a look at this, right? So, you know, we had the bond. I think the bond was spent very slowly in the past. We're paying for that now, literally. I don't know why. I've not received answers for why the bond didn't move as quickly as it should have in getting our fire infrastructure in place. But I just want to know more, because this was done pretty quickly, in my opinion, right? So as we move forward through this process, I'm, again, just looking for some reassurances.
And Commissioner Whitman, I think you're going to get those assurances. You'll have time to look it through. This is something we do put in place, and every year, it's going to come back in front of us. So if every year that we figure that 5-year plan that's out there is just a plan, every year we adopt the budget, every time we can adjust that millage down if we think we're collecting too much. Years ago, we had done that, and frankly, it put us in a hole. With parks and libraries, we had to do 30% cuts and all. We didn't have reserves in place, so we weren't in a good spot to go do it. I see the benefits of what they're doing, and knowing they're asking for 8 and we got it to 4.9 after digging into the numbers, not just cutting and pick a number, you looked at what's going to be financially sustainable. These commitments that our citizens want from us, I mean, think about it, they voted in to tax themselves. We can't go back to them every year. They put us in here to go make the rest of it work. And I think the intent that I heard very loud and clear from the people was to say, the fire and EMS is very important to us. We want to make sure we're going to be the best. Because when they're out there on the line waiting for us to show up, they don't want to wait too long, as short as possible, and get the best treatment they can. And I think our team's doing a great job with that. So I think over time, I think you'll be able to get to the comfort. But again, this is just, we set it now, we look at it for a few months, and then it will be a discussion point for at least 2 more times. Commissioner Stark.
Yeah, the only time I recall raising the millage rate was when we had our deputies leaving our county for Hillsborough. And it was very clear to me that, you know, the cheaper thing was to raise the millage than to keep funding Hillsborough's workforce. And so sometimes you have to look at the big picture of what is the most fiscally responsible way to move forward. And I think our county has had a long history in being very, very frugal to the point where I think it's come back to bite us. To have service, you know, service call, wait 14 minutes, that's not okay. That's a life and death scenario. So I think, you know, public safety is one of our most important, funding public safety adequately is one of our most important roles. And, you know, we're not going to the full big ask, but we're taking a step. I think this step has been needed for a while, and I just think we need to do it. And I think it really is cheaper for us in the long run. But the health and safety of and welfare of our citizens is really a primary objective of what we do. So I'm in support of this. I have full faith in our new chief that he will be seeing, you know, what opportunities there are to be very careful with our taxpayers' money, and as asks come in the future, you know, we'll look at those as, you know, hopefully, you know, under a big microscope. But I think this is an important step forward. So I'm in support.
All right, and Commissioner Bradford, I can't see you, but would you like to comment?
Now.
All right.
Okay, so excuse me,
me great comfort that we have an opportunity every year to revisit this decision. It's not a one type of scenario. But I also agree with Commissioner Starkey that it's our obligation to fund public safety as our sheriff and our fires as best we can. And 14 minutes is too long. And we have been pretty frugal in the past. And I think it's now time to pay for the party that we had. So I agree with Commissioner Starkey 100%. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just add in, I think Chief Perez has a great opportunity here, and I think if we show this 5-year plan, a long-term plan, the commitment that we've kept for all these years, that I hope that helps him bring employees in that want to stay, obviously retain the ones we've got, and maybe that's an opportunity to say, look, these guys are serious. They're keeping that in there. They understand safety. They understand how important it is, and I think this is a great message to go forward that I think helps everybody, and the morale of our group. I mean, there's not a more passionate group that's out there. I think everyone can see that this is a big step forward for us in a tight budget year with inflation punching every single department we got, that it's a great step forward. Mr. Cabello.
If I may, sir, and I just want to thank the board for this good discussion. It's going to help us moving forward. Don't take lightly bringing forward a recommendation to increase taxes on any of our citizens. But when I'm confronted with new data, I do feel compelled to act. So yes, there is a little bit of last minute on this, and we continue to divulge into the details, and we'll continue to be transparent through that process with the board members. Fiscal accountability in this budget has been at the forefront, and we've discussed this with the budget office and the assistant county administrators. So know that we continually scrub, and we will continually refine things to make sure that we're providing premier service, but at the same time at the most efficient and cost-effective rate. So you still have that commitment from your team here to continue down that path. But I am happy to be able to recommend to you that we have found a way that we can work with our first responders to help overcome a lot of the serious issues that we're seeing and facing out there today. So thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? Okay.
Was that the end of your presentation?
Yes, ma'am.
So do we have a motion to approve R46?
Mr. Chairman, just because this has happened in the past, I want to ask Bob, you've coordinated with the school board to make sure that their date is not on the 5th? Thank you.
Can you say what the school board's increasing there?
That I don't know.
I do. I believe the school board is increasing by $1 million, I believe. That was for teacher pay, but that's what I understand.
Okay.
So we need a motion here?
Need a motion, yes.
I move.
Second.
Move approval of item 46.
Move approval of R46?
Yeah.
So we got a motion and a second. Roll call vote?
Okay, District 1, Commissioner Oakley.
Aye.
District 2, Commissioner Waitman.
I'll move forward with a yes vote on this, but no, in coming months, we're going to be working pretty closely together. So aye.
Okay, District 3, Commissioner Starkey.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Bradford.
Aye.
District 5, Chairman Mariano.
Aye. Approved unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move to R47, additional personal request for code compliance.
Is this possibly my favorite thing today?
I'm surprised you didn't comment on the Kogan grass that went through.
I need balloons and fireworks.
This morning, favorite thing this morning.
Well, good morning.
It's a good morning, that's all I want.
That greatly reduces the pressure.
You don't even have to present, let's just go, yes. I move to approve.
So are we good? Patrick Ayrton, Code Compliance Director. This morning asking for extra or FTEs for code compliance.
Yes. And they're all for me.
So I'll just go over a quick agenda for it. I thank Commissioner for saying that so early. I'm very appreciative of it. In this fiscal year, we'll go over some impacts. Those are the big things that you probably want to know what the bottom line is and what it's going to cost. So currently, this is the way our overview looks. It's changed just slightly recently. We had 2 officers leave, so we're actually down 2 at the moment. If you look at the way these numbers play out, and I think I've spoken to a few of the commissioners, if not all of you at one point, talking about the number of code officers there are out there. If you drill these numbers down, there's 1 code officer for about 23,000 residents, and they need some help out there right now. And if you break it down even further into square miles, 1 code officer covers 35 square miles, and they were responsible for, if you took an average and they actually were working businesses routinely, they would have 452 businesses that they would be responsible for 1 code officer. On the bottom there, you can see we also handle some navigable waters. As you folks know, docks, canal widths, stuff like that, we also look at, our guys look at. So to say they're understaffed is a phrase I wouldn't use, overstretched maybe at this point. The objectives behind this, obviously number 1 is if you have 2 people at a location, it's better than 1. I know you're familiar with law enforcement. They like to send a couple people out. We would like to send 2 people to some of these. We just can't at the moment. Our response time is pretty good right now. We've gone from about 7 days since I came on to a little over 4 days response time. That's just in general for all of the priority calls. Goal is to get down to respond within 24 to 48 hours for every call that comes in. We have done a number of missions. I don't know if I've sent that information to you. I probably should send you more of that. We do a lot of assisting with some of the other Pasco County departments, parks and recreation. We do own a boat, so we do offer that. We go out and help them recently with swim lines along the Anclote River or Anclote Beach area. We also do a lot of work with the Sheriff's Office, and I believe recently we've had 2 of our guys become instructors for ATV and boat. So we'll be working a little more with the Sheriff's Office. We want to increase our presence along US Highway 19, and we'll touch on that a little bit later. And the creation, fostering these relationships with within the community. We are in the process of trying to get together a list of all the HOAs and all the presidents within those HOAs so that we can work with them, find out what issues they're having in their neighborhoods and how we can help them. And then ultimately, if we ever get to the numbers where I feel comfortable enough, we'll start back on full-time weekends. Right now, if we are granted the 5 additional FTEs, we're going to try to initiate at least 1 weekend a month, and we'll just put that sporadically so the citizens don't know that we're coming, so we can look for those signs and those right-of-way violations that are happening during the weekends. So the fiscal impact is going to be the first number, 306,821, will be the upfront impact. That does include operational cost and vehicles, so it's the startup cost. The 409,097 will be budgeted for next year, and obviously with operating costs, we'll have to annually budget for that going forward. The second line there, which I'm not very familiar with the Municipal Services Fund, so I'm not going to go into detail on that. You folks are far more educated on it than I am. This is how it's going to be moved around, realigning the funds from the Municipal Services Fund, Restricted Reserves Account, to the Municipal Services Fund, to us, the Code Compliance Department. Staff plan. This is what we're planning on doing with the 5 additional personnel that we bring in. As you see on the top, we are going to start looking at businesses and commercial properties a little harder. They're going to review business tax receipts, research site development plans, and that coincides with that landscaping issue. who has kind of violated that original site plan when they first put it in. One of the personnel is going to be assigned to review these plans and research these plans, and they're also going to be tasked with tracking the data that's associated with these violations. Another one will be right-of-way violations. That includes the trash and the signs that we're starting to see routinely. We're getting complaints on. They'll be keeping track of that and responding to them. So there'll be a person solely dedicated to that violation. And then the last one, we're getting a number of fence violations and permitted use zoning violations. We're going to try to dedicate one of his personnel to research and review and handle those cases as they come in. Do I have one more? Okay. Okay, so with that, any questions? I know that was kind of brief, lunchtime.
Mrs. Starkey.
Well, I am excited about this. I know, Commissioner Bradford has also expressed how we need to go ahead and get started on these things ASAP. So I am grateful that you were able to bring this forward now because the need is great. And, I'm finding actually many places that never came in for a site plan. They may have got their zoning and then they just went off and opened their business with no site plan review, no site plan approval. And so we just, we just have to have some work to do to get this county back where it needs to be. And once we've got it, I think that we'll get to a place where it'll be much easier for our businesses to maintain what we want them to maintain, and easier on everybody. And I won't be showing you all those pictures all the time.
You're not.
And driving everyone crazy. So I'm really in support of this. And I know you need more, but this is a great first step, even before October 1st.
Commissioner Bradford.
I concur with Commissioner Stark. It's something that we need to do. We need to do as soon as possible. Overstretch is a nice word, but if we could do even more, that would be great. We asked the same amount of people to do more work. So, is the utmost concern to all of us. We want them to be able to want to come to work and make a difference for the community, and that should be our goal. Thank you.
Commissioner Oakley?
Yep, I'll have to agree. It's kind of overdue because of the amount of people we're gaining in the county year after year that are coming here and moving here. We have a lot of issues out there in some of the older areas of our county that have been neglected because we don't have enough people. So I'm in agreement. Did you make a motion?
I make the motion to approve.
I second.
All right, further discussion. I think, Pat, you're doing a phenomenal job. I think your hands are tied a little bit. The homeless situation that we have up on US 19, what's the status on one at Leisure Beach? Where we've had the drone footage showing a camp out there, and we know they're violating out there. And what has ever happened with that camp?
That one.
We know there's violations.
Yes. So when our officers initially went out there, they didn't see the violations from the right of way, but later they were able to obtain a view from it. So the property owner has been cited for it. So they've been warned to remove the trash and the debris. There's a trespass agreement in place already, I believe, with that property. So when the time comes to actually move anybody from there, we'll have to have the sheriff's office go with us and remove the people prior to the trash. But the property owner is responsible for that.
Okay, and that'd be something that you would, if they didn't clean it up, you'd clean it up and then we'd put a lien to the property, or what would happen?
Yes, I mean, typically historically we have helped with the cleanup. We're kind of stepping away from that a little bit to force the property owners to do their cleanup on their own property, but yes, that's technically the way it goes.
So I think one of the things, if we're going to clean up all these camps up and down 19, is to actually maybe look at putting money into that as part of what we do here. Because right now, just leaving it there, all that trash, I mean, you saw Hurricane Ian, all the trash that got like thrown in, and that was just a fairly clean place. You take all the trash that's along our coast, along 19, where else is that trash gonna go?
I got a trash.
Out into the Gulf. So environmentally, it's something we need to go address as well. I know the trespass agreements are critical, but again, it's still, doesn't seem to be getting it done. Like, this was like over 3 weeks ago now. What has happened out there? Anything? Like, other than cite it up? Has he cleaned it up at all? Do we know?
I don't believe there's been much of a cleanup in process, but as you're aware of, there is a process. So they're given 30 days to clean up or make appropriations to clean it up, and then technically they'll ask, sometimes they ask for an extension, but that's where we're at about right now. So we're almost at that first deadline.
So let's go down to this subject, because again, I'm in forward of doing things that are gonna get things done, backing things that way, but if I've got a homeless population that's there, we've got a trespass agreement that's in place, you find there's a violation, why do they have 30 days to go clean it up? Why aren't we doing this? Why isn't it being done quicker?
Well, the state requires that we give some type of warning time frame before you actually cite.
Okay, so what is it?
30 days
is it 30 days?
30 days is what they ask by state.
Is it asked or mandated?
Mandate, but you can give less, but you can give up to 30.
Okay, so why
So
aren't
in
we
that
giving-
situation, we base it on how much stuff is there, trash, and give appropriate time, which we think would be to clean it up.
Can I add to that?
Commissioner Stark, you got it.
So when we go, so we had this morning, and I emailed to ask a few questions about it on some liens or some fines that became liens this morning. So when you go in and have to clean up a property, my understanding is if they pay those fines, then they can pay them and it's gone. But if they don't, it goes on and it doubles. Is that correct?
That's correct. It comes back in an invoice to us, and we
Yeah,
double it and then add
double
the paper fees.
Yeah, so what was $6,000 to some property next to Universal Plaza in cleanup fees became $12,000. So I just want to make sure you guys do that. I mean, it's to their benefit to go in and clean it up themselves. Because if we're going to pay for it and our citizens are going to cover that bill, it's going to be much more expensive for them.
So for the residents that have to deal with this, and obviously crime goes up, trash goes up, it's unpopular as far as local retail establishments, they'll go hang out in front of, they'll panhandle more. I don't know why, and I think this board we should look at changing this policy right now. If we're giving these people 30 days, I think that thing should be shortened up to a week. And if it's a ton of stuff that's out there and a ton of people that's out there, so be it, it's on them. They let it happen. It's illegal, we should be doing it, we shouldn't give them 30 days, it should be 7 days. What's that? Go ahead.
So,
If we can, I'm saying.
there are, so trash and debris, you're gonna have to give them 30 days unless there is there's a statutory phrase, which is basically that the harm that is occurring cannot be mitigated.
Exigency.
Right. Trespass is a whole different animal, because you're really operating outside of 162. You're operating on a trespass agreement that the property owner has signed to the sheriff's office. So you've moved out of code enforcement and you've moved into criminal trespass. So what Patrick is saying is correct, that from his standpoint and from what his agency does, statutorily there's a 30-day clock for most everything that code enforcement does. The trespass agreements are sort of, you need to look at them as sort of a separate aisle.
Well, the ones he has the most effectiveness is when there's a trespass agreement. If there's no trespass agreement, you can't go check the site out if you can't see it from the road, correct?
If we can see it from the public right away,
right,
we can address those issues.
Right, but most of the times they're deep in the woods, you can't see it. So the trespass agreements are critical for you to be able to go look and investigate, correct?
It's probably more critical that the sheriff's office can go on
Well,
to
yeah,
there.
because they're the ones who handle criminal, you don't handle
Correct.
criminal.
And then we'll handle the trash side.
Okay. So if you have a trespass agreement in place, do you have to call the sheriff first, or do you go in to look at it first?
They'll look at it, they'll drive by the location and see if they can observe the violations from the public right-of-way.
So if you can't see it from the public right-of-way, knowing there's a trespass agreement in place, do you have to wait for the sheriff to go in and go take a look at it?
For safety purposes, absolutely.
Okay, that's the procedure that you do, period?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. And how much, I know Alex is in the audience, I think we've talked to you, like to have like a week's notice to when you're gonna go out there?
We try to give them as much heads up as we can. It's been better lately that we can give them a little more advance notice because their services are required elsewhere as well, but I think we've set it up fairly well lately.
Okay. So one of the things, Deb Eubanks, who runs that homeless group that says hundreds of people that follow her, and she had a thing going on, and Jeff, I think you were on the email and you commented on it, or saw the email.
Well, I've
You didn't
seen
comment
it,
on
I've
it?
not commented
Right,
on
you
it.
saw
I
the
was still
email.
researching.
So on a safety aspect, let's say someone feels it's unsafe. I mean, and as you just said, your deputy, your code enforcement people won't go in there because they're afraid. We talked about the machete attack up in Hudson, or the machete threat to your people. They said, we can't go there anymore. That's when we brought Alex and the sheriff's people back in to say, if you're gonna go in there, you've gotta be safe, you've gotta be protected, because you guys don't carry. And going through that, if someone calls in and they think there's something going on, and they're afraid of their safety, what is the level of safety that we need to be at? Or are you still working on what that is?
So that was, as the board is aware, that was what's at issue here is the new statute that was adopted, I think, 2 years ago, that basically says that the board can't take anonymous complaints anymore. I got that email chain yesterday morning. I was preparing for the board. I have not had an opportunity to go into the legislation to see if there's no public records exemption. The question is whether or not there is some other exemption that was adopted with that statute.
Okay.
I just haven't had time to.
All right, so I'll give you time for that. And I know you've seen it, so I'm glad you're in the loop, and I'm glad we're talking about this now. All right, so let me go to another thing. Yesterday, I went with Rich Jenkins. We drove up and down 19. Pretty much knew the sites I wanted to go look at, the ones that had vegetation in, the ones that didn't have vegetation in. Some were newer projects that were in, some were a little bit older, and some just, some had vegetation, some didn't have any. Some of them probably just took them out because there's monument signs on the ground, you couldn't see the bushes. That's my impression, don't know. Even if you offer those people money to go do tree mitigation funds, as part of this is code violations, I would like you to be able to go through and put a report together with each individual one, that if we go up and down 19, there's something, I think I should start out. Go up and down 19, go look at everyone that looks to be in violation, and then ask them why they wouldn't use the tree mitigation fund to comply. Now, I know you're gonna get someone to say, well, I think the bushes are gonna be too high, I think the trees are too much to block my view, I don't have the money to go put in a parking lot where I gotta go put a median in to put plants in. I would like you to get that information, if we're gonna go do this, to find out what's going on. I've always felt that some of this on 19 was gonna be very tough. When you're driving down and you get pole signs that are like 60 feet in the air, people can see that sign before they get up to it. Other times when the monument signs can't see it, it's been a problem, and I think it's a reason why we get a lot of blight. So I think a lot of them that don't change to a monument sign don't want to give up their height. They don't want to comply to the other land development code. But I would like you guys, if we're going to do this, to find that out. Let's go find out what's causing the problem of why they don't want to comply. Because we're offering them free money with the tree mitigation fund to do it. There's got to be a reason they're not doing it. And if we're going to go through this, I want to get that information back.
It's not 100% free. They have to invest as well.
That's okay, but I mean,
So
there's
some
a
of
big
them don't
financial
invest.
incentive to go
I've
do
been
it.
knocking on doors myself. So,
They may not tell you. They may tell them.
well, I think we need like 40 more officers then.
Well, and again, we got to focus on
Knock
19.
the door of every business on 19.
With the two that was on that staff plan, that we can start looking at this, we can put it on their plate and see if we have the opportunity.
I mean, if you would, go. Can you put the map back up to show where the codes are? Okay. So Commissioner Oakley only gets a couple, even though he's half the county. But if you look at your intensity, seems to be right along those corridors on 19 anyway. So I think maybe we need to look at that district and maybe adjust if we're going to bring more in. Maybe you need to just have someone specifically right on that roadway, going up and down. Let everything branch off this side, but let someone focus right in that area and just let's go dissect it. Let's go find out what's going on with it.
Well, that's the additional staff, or the way I outlined it there. The one person can look at that, but we're only going to have one person that we can potentially dedicate to it. So 19 alone would be very cumbersome for one person.
But if you look at all your violations, I'm sure that's where the predominant number is. And if you look at, you got some people that cover all the way from 19 to Shady Hills. You got another one that's going from there to the coast. You've got a couple of smaller segments that are going deep over the Little Road, back over. I think it's maybe time to relook at that code, and let's go look all the way down. So you're not having like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 code people on 19 already. Maybe you change the districts and let's focus on that corridor. Put 2 in there up and down. Make Marine Parkway the mix, or Ridge Road the mix, or whatever, and just focus on that. And then everything east and west of it, that can be broken up other ways. But that's your big corridor. That's where your big problems are, and everything falling off that. Most of your homeless are coming off the 19. They're coming to the woods, blanketing right off it. That's where the issues are. So having like 10 different guys in different areas, I think the approach needs to be looked at. Commissioner Waitman.
Thank you, Chair.
And we're under discussion on the 5, right? That's where we're at. 'Cause we had a motion and a second.
We do. We're still in discussion.
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
We have a question, but he needs to speak.
Just, which chairman am I talking to?
Right here.
Based on the level of this discussion, don't we have a workshop or something being planned in the mix for code? I thought that we had discussed having some sort of working a number of weeks back. I might be mistaken.
Are you talking about like town hall meetings?
No, our workshop.
No, I don't believe we have anything scheduled. If the board wants to talk about code issues, we can. I was just going to say, for the sake of this discussion, that we're adding 5 new code officers, and we do look to Patrick's team to provide the operational, tactical look on this to ensure that we're meeting the objectives of the board. So if there's objectives that you'd like to see, that the board wants to see along US 19, I would just say we let Patrick know that, and he'll figure out the most efficient and effective way to achieve those objectives versus, making assignments of particular folks to certain zones.
The West Side Commissioners on this issue. It's a tough one.
Well, you got it on 41.
So, well,
And,
yeah,
and
but-
54 in your district too. So.
1 second.
Yes, but the vast majority of this conversation is
Yes.
centered around the code. So
Well, I
if we-
have some data to show you when it comes to commission.
One second. Let me finish.
If we need to have a workshop, I'd be willing to, but.
Okay. I mean, we could do that, yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Oakley.
I just want to say that where you're finding these issues happening are things that have been produced years and years ago, where they have the older sections of our county. That's where you find some of the landscaping and other issues are happening, and they're changing uses on some of those buildings. And so it gets neglected, and that's why we're having to have code in that western part. And Catherine sees that a lot in her area. But there's also around 41 in Land Lakes area, because some of that's older area also, and some in Wesley Chapel. There's a few in my area, but mine's mostly rural, so there's less need of so many code enforcements here, because it's mostly rural area. So we have some issues.
Very good. Commissioner Starkey.
Well, I'm going to show you some interesting, now this is sheriff's calls for service in my district, but just a little part of my district. But, when there's 2 different things we're talking about, I think Jack was speaking of, and two different issues. One is existing businesses who have an approved site plan who don't maintain their landscape. Then we have old businesses who came in before we had landscaping codes that we are trying to encourage to spruce up their business. And, 20, 30 years ago, I wrote a letter when I was a citizen activist. What is the vision of the county? And what is it that we want to look like? And from there, you know, I started a 501c3 called Scenic Pasco, and we worked on changing or making a landscape ordinance, a tree ordinance, sign ordinance, lighting, cell tower ordinance, night sky, right of way. We did all these aesthetic things, and it's made a huge difference. When I used to knock on doors to try and raise money when All Children's built their first facility up here, and we were trying to fundraise for the Cowboy Christmas Ball, I couldn't find any doctors or any business leaders who lived in Pasco County. They all lived in Pinellas or Hillsborough. And you know, that wasn't good for our county. We had a very high tax rate and a low land value. We didn't have any businesses, and we didn't have any expensive homes, but very few. And it's changed now, but we can't slide back to what we looked like 30 years ago, 40 years ago. And I can tell you, if we don't stay on top of these things, we are sliding back. I can show you picture after picture, and I showed you how to go to Google Maps, take a picture of what's there today, and take a picture of what was there 6 years ago, and it's gone. In 6 years, it's gone. Or we've let them take their tree and trim it into the hedge. And you got a hedge here, nothing, a hedge there. The first thing when you go to sell your house, what realtors tell you to do is curb appeal. Well, if we're trying to attract quality business here and help our residents with taxes, we have to have curb appeal. And so I think this is really critical, and I don't want to keep sliding backwards. And I am very much in support of what these people will do, and I will go out there and walk with them. If sometimes they don't want me to, because I'm much more straightforward than them. But I'm willing to work hard in my district to bring it up. And I hope when you drove 19, if you went down through Holiday, I do hear and believe that things are looking better down there. I've really been diligent about the sign code. We've got reinvestment coming in, and I'm hopeful that we're turning around.
Question?
We have a first and a second.
Okay. All right, all in favor of the motion? Roll call vote.
District 1, Commissioner Oakley.
Aye.
District 2, Commissioner Waitman.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Starkey.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Bradford.
Aye.
District 5, Chairman Mariano.
Aye. Motion passes. I hope to work with you to talk about that US 19, because I think with panhandling, work with the Sheriff's Office as well, going up and down, that corridor needs attention, and maybe it's a time to look at the changes here I mentioned.
Sounds good. Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
R48.
That's to be heard this afternoon.
Yes.
Okay, later on. Okay. All right, we'll go to committee reports. Miscellaneous business, Commissioner Oakley.
Okay. On June 23rd, I attended the Tampa Bay Transportation Management Area Leadership Group and the Suncoast Transportation Planning Alliance Board meeting. Like I said, I was going to tell them that I didn't like the mix-up of too many people in Hillsborough and a lot less in Pasco and a lot less in Pinellas, because we're out of balance. But in doing that, and the Secretary Gwynn answered that question for me, I was looking at a small picture of supporting Pasco County. I wasn't looking at the big picture, which supports the region. So the region has this group that's as a MPO board for the whole region. The fact
Trying to get it regional.
It's for a federal monies that can come to our region that handles those bigger and a lot bigger projects than we actually have in our county. But the money still flow to us from where we normally get our money, but we're able to actually, we'll be, instead of being number 45 as a county or 37 as a county, we'll be number 17 in the nation for our government looks at, in order to get some of that federal money. So the idea of it is not based on numbers. We shouldn't be worrying about numbers so much, because it's based on population of the different counties. And that's how the membership gets wrapped up. So we still have to come to agreement on the number. But it's a lot bigger picture than what I was thinking at first, and realize that that's very important for us to be a part of that group. And so we can get some of those monies also in our area. So that's what came of it. That's basically all I had to bring forward.
Okay. Dean, that's all you had. Any comments to that?
Well, I'm
Mr.
very
Starkey.
grateful. I'm very grateful that you came, and Andy came, and hopefully he gave you some report. We had some new people there, and we actually had the chair of the TPO there, who's a mayor of Temple Terrace.
Yeah.
And I think he came in with the same view that you maybe had come in, kind of maybe echoing a commissioner from Hillsborough County, maybe. But afterwards, he told me that he really had his eyes opened, and I think Secretary Gwynn put it so eloquently at what a disadvantage this region is by not working together. And when he compared the strength of the region to compete for federal dollars, because that's all we're talking about here, versus trying to compete for federal dollars as a county, it was impressive, and we need to get that whole statement back up here word for word, because I think that just nailed it at what we are doing to ourselves by not working together. And this is not about our local roads and our local issues.
Right.
That is, we get that money, and that money will still come to us in the same formula. This is about working together on big projects for West Central Florida. And we're not doing it, and it's such a disservice. And so I was very happy with some of the comments I heard around that room. They wanted us to do some surveys. I didn't think it really was appropriate when the Pinellas County Commissioners weren't there, because they had a budget hearing with their sheriff that day. So we'll do it again. I would, Jack and I have been saying y'all need to be coming to these meetings. So, we need more people coming and learning what this is about and understanding the importance. I think that some people in Hillsborough have been hearing a story from a few commissioners that don't really reflect what the importance of this regional MPO means to the community, and they had their eyes opened at that meeting.
Yeah.
And so I was grateful for that. So I was elected chair of that meeting, and we'll be working. We're going to get this done. We're going to get our regional MPO in place. And I agree. There's still discussion about how our representation falls out. There are some federally mandated rules that we have to follow, but there's also opportunity. So if Hillsborough has more population, it doesn't have to be all their commissioners. It can be other people in Hillsborough, like Joe Lapano and Paul Anderson from the port, and other, the regional, whatever else this group thinks, but it doesn't have to be all the naysayers of regionalism there.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you went there. I'm glad you talked, and I think a good point. We still need to fight for the best representation we can get.
Yeah.
That is a big thing. But when you look at places like North Carolina, that got a whole bunch of money for years now, the rail system they put in place runs right through. California, same thing. Look at Orlando, Miami, because they came united. That one region, that one voice makes a big difference. We had a chance to get a lot of money. Maybe it was a right call or right not, that we didn't go through with it a few years back, but at least we had one voice at that time. And I think it's important that we make that step forward to go to get that money. Again, glad you went. I still want to make sure we do the best we can as far as representation goes, but if it allocates a whole nother pot of money that we weren't getting,
Right.
definitely something to pursue. Good. Commissioner Wayton.
Thank you. Hope everybody had a great 4th of July. We had a couple of new famous folks from Fort Ritchie on TV, and they'll be here to visit us hopefully in September, so more to come on that. Reading through the agenda, something pretty exciting in Adams here. But down on item 127, I read that we've confirmed Tim Tebow to be our next speaker for the sports banquet.
Got a big year.
So all I gotta say is we need a venue, and let's start selling tickets now. That's pretty cool. I don't know if you have any more comments to say to that. No pressure if you're not ready, but some good news in the document today. He ain't cheap.
No, sir. Thank you, Commissioner. Adam Thomas, Tourism Director. No, he wasn't cheap, but well worth the price. Great inspirational motivation leadership speaker on leadership. Don't have a location locked down. Tickets will start going on sale either December or the first of the year. We're planning on selling out any venue that we take on.
Go big.
Yes, go big, go home.
Cool. Next, we have a little update on one of my favorite subject matters, Live Local. So since our last board meeting, that same day, we had another email come in for 2 more projects. The applicant, that would be a total of 5. Mr. Goldstein is probably here somewhere. He's been doing a good job at the planning commission level. So the applicant, from what we understand, didn't disclose the location based on the email, but kind of the tone seemingly, because it was so vague, probably looking at either commercial or industrial properties. And there was an interesting dialogue back and forth at the planning commission, which I thought was really interesting, at Curly Road in 54, that dealt with Live Local, and a citizen actually came up and brought the conversation to the forefront of the planning commission. And appreciate Mr. Goldstein's diligence on working with the planning commission and asking the pertinent questions and reiterating the fact of, hey, here's what the commission's going to ask on these items. So appreciate everybody's diligence on this subject matter to save our job creating sites. Next, I'd like to have a policy discussion. So our board meetings start at 10 a.m. and I'd like to see us start an hour earlier, 9 a.m. and get more done in the mornings. And so we put together a slide to show the start times of most all the other commissions in our area, Citrus being the outlier in Pasco. So for the 24 calendar, I'd like to make a motion, check the temperature. There'd be interest in starting our board meetings at 9 a.m. instead of 10 a.m.
Well, I'll be very late. What if we go to 9:30?
What's the purpose of that? Because a lot of the items we have, like today, we had quite a few things to do.
That's true. We'd just be sitting here.
We're done.
Yeah.
I think we can get staff to rework the calendar and get more out of our day in our morning.
Can't rework it much. All the public hearings got to happen at 1:30.
Well, that rule can be changed too. We can take, instead of having an hour,
defer to.
We could have an hour and a half
Stein on
lunch.
that.
Well, I
Do
think-
an hour lunch, potentially, but that's not, I figured it'd be a twofold discussion. I figured I'd bring it up for discussion.
Yeah, I think if you look at the other jurisdictions that start at 9, they do their public hearings as soon as they get to them. So their public hearings are advertised for 9 a.m. or as soon thereafter as they can be held. And so whenever they get to them if they do their consent agenda and then they do their public hearing, familiar with Manatee, that's the way they operate. They do all their land use on a separate Thursday once a month. But yeah, the problem you're going to have is if you move your time frame up and you don't move your 1:30 public hearings, I think you sort of defeat the purpose of starting earlier. But there's nothing in the statute. You'd have to amend your rules, but there's nothing in the statute that would prevent you from doing morning public hearings.
Yeah. So it's a pleasure of the board. I prefer to start earlier, have a shorter lunch, but obviously.
Yeah, I'm going to rescind. Nope. I like it.
That car drives fast though, Commissioner.
It does drive fast. Don't tell anybody. But, I frequently have lunch meetings, like I have one today. So I try and take care of some business over here when I'm here for lunch. So I can barely fit that in 1 hour. So I don't know. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, if we're gonna,
like it is.
Yeah, if we're gonna have like a morning meeting, 10 o'clock, 95% of the time, we're done with all our stuff before noon anyway. Staff usually balances it out. If we ever need a workshop stuff, we can maybe do a workshop at 9 if we want to
Yeah,
get to
9
that
to
point.
10, yeah.
That may be something we can like open up a little bit, like,
That's a good idea.
whether it be code enforcement or something else. If you want to do a workshop, maybe for those times, we kind of like set that up. That may be something. But for 95% of the time, I think the 10 o'clock is fine. As far as the 1:30, I think Commissioner Starkey is okay too. If you go 1:30, you get a chance to go have lunch, and usually going to do a business lunch or getting ready for the afternoon anyway. So I don't mind the 1:30 time either. And then this way, everybody that's coming in knows exactly when to be there and they can work. So if we're going to keep the framework the same, then I'm comfortable with it too.
With a lot of our discussion points, if we had an earlier start time, we could knock, in my opinion, a lot more of that out and get more out of our day. And so that 1 hour is a swing, so that's why I wanted to bring it up.
Well, I mean, I like the idea if you've got something going on. So if we're going to talk about a workshop, maybe we need a workshop for 40 and 50 lots, whatever. Let's set it where, okay, we're going to have that workshop. Instead of taking up a whole day, which we sometimes used to do with staff, now we just say, okay, we're going to dedicate an hour to it. And that may get us more frequent to go do it, which is okay. But just to open up to our regular course of business, I think is an unnecessary change. But again, for workshops, you want to start them at 9. If we have them, I'm good with that.
Okay.
Yeah. And most of our board meetings, different of our meetings. We have an hour meeting prior to the board meeting. So I had one this morning. So you may want to start at 9, but I couldn't have that meeting that was important to be at before the board meeting. So.
And I generally am getting stuff done before we get here at 10 as well, so. But for a workshop, I'm good with a 9 o'clock start whenever we have one to come.
Oh, I am with that, yeah.
Okay.
Good. All right.
Anything else, sir?
Thank you. No, that was it. Excited for September, though. We'll see some more locally famous folks come September. So, and Adam, thank you.
Very good. Commissioner Starkey.
Well, I'm not going to get it all in, so.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, I have one. But I will, I'll talk about this and I'll finish the rest later. So I just wanted you to see pictures of the Beacon Square Park that the Parks Department got put in with the grant. So this community is very grateful to have this park. It was just kind of a unkempt grass field. So look what the community got. So I hope we can go around and, keep putting these in. I personally think that in our libraries, we could have these as well. So, I mean, it's not that expensive and it's wonderful for the young families. So, but I'm not gonna go into anything else now. I think, Jack, since we have our tourism guy here, I was trying to find, Gina, are you with a G or a J? G. Oh, GJ, right? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to send you a picture. Okay. It's from Saddlebrook. So we have this weekend or last weekend, the kickoff of a hockey tournament that's occurring at Center Ice. 40 teams from around the country, a lot from Canada. My grandsons are guest playing on the 2 Canadian hockey teams. So that's why I was there. I didn't know we were going to have a mic opportunity.
I know.
So I wasn't in my bathing suit, but I did have a cover up on. I just think of 40 teams with 21 kids on a team, and they each have at least 2 parents. But I'm telling you, I met a lot of grandparents too at the pool bar. And so I can't even figure out the numbers of what that is, but it's humongous. And they can't find places to practice. My grandson is supposed to go today to Lakeland to get some ice time so he can play with the team that he's never met. So.
I just sent, Gene, I just sent you the picture that we had from Saddlebrook when Commissioner Stark and I were there.
Yeah.
You can put that up, that'd be good.
But so you have the families Yeah, so I asked the organizer, what was his name, George, or?
Sergio.
So I asked him, if he would like pull the kids together, because we had no way of finding out where the teammates were that my grandkids were gonna be playing on. He said, oh, good idea. And he had a bunch of the kids who were on the different teams that were in the pool at the time come to the front and raise their hands of who was not from the United States. And the majority of them raised their hands, not from the United States. And, but like one of the families I met, one son is on my grandson's team. They had 2 older brothers with them and family friends. So the impact of sports travel is just humongous. And that started Sunday, and they go the whole week. The whole week they're involved with hockey, and then they're gonna go play other places. So, man, we just gotta keep building more of these. So, do you have any more comments on it?
I'd say it was a great event.
Yeah, it was hot.
So we played golf earlier in the day with them, and the leading scorer for the Vancouver Canucks was there as the host, Connor, and he was like pumping all the kids up earlier in the day, and he'll be there for the weekend too, I believe. But to bring all those kids there and all the parents, etc., they filled up the resort all the way through. So just a great event. Gordy Zimmerman, I gave him a good plug, because what he did with center ice, Ed Van Tel's ice, was a phenomenal thing. I think it led the way for us to see sports tourism so important. Got my pin on today, Adam, see that? But what that does, sports tourism, is phenomenal. And the amenity to have that pool area set up for those kids, they were just like everywhere, jumping around, having a fun time, parents having a good time. But again, sports tourism brings business. And again, all those resort hotels, if they're not there, I don't know what's going on that day.
This obviously is a very small representation of the total amount of kids that are here on, if each team has 21 kids, times 40, but this was just the kickoff, and they have other events that they're doing around community. Last night, my grandson's team had a dinner at one of the restaurants there. He wasn't able to make it over there, but they're doing team events at different restaurants. And we went from here to Popstroke and played my first round at Popstroke, and that was great fun too. So good stuff. We need some more on our side. That's all.
Very good. All right, we got the noon hour, so we'll break to 1:30.
That 1 hour make a difference.
You want to give him more time?
And wildlife depend on you to keep them healthy. Excess fertilizer, grass clippings, trash, oils, and pet waste wash into gutters and storm drains when it rains. Stormwater carries these pollutants directly into our lakes and rivers, creating an unhealthy environment for fish, waterfowl, and other aquatic animals.